everyone, it's Miss Rossi. Today we're going to be finishing our line rockets from last week. What you'll be needing today is your line rocket paper that we drew our rocket ship on last time. You're also going to be needing some crayons to add some color. I also have some markers and some water here because I am going to turn my washable markers into watercolor paint. You can use any kind of washable marker for this. It does not have to be a Mr. Sketch marker. Any washable water-based marker will work. So as we're coloring in our picture today, I am going to turn my washable markers into watercolor paint by adding water. It's going to make the marker colors spread out and blend on my paper. I'm going to use my crayons to color in my rocket, all of the little details on it, and my stars. You can color your picture in however you would like. It does not have to look like mine, but we want to just start out by using our crayons in these spaces first. Now that I've colored in my rocket with my crayons and my stars, I am going to grab my washable markers, pushing my crayons to the side, and I am going to trace over the top of my lines. I'm going to pick some warm colors to trace my lines because I want them to look kind of like fire. So our warm colors are our reds, oranges, and yellows. Now pink is a lighter version of red, so we can use pink as well. If you want different colored fire coming out of the back of your rocket as it's shooting through space, you can always pick different colors. These are just the ones I'm going to choose for today. Now with my markers, I'm just going to trace right over the top of my lines. So I'm starting with this big looping line, and with my red marker, I'm just tracing right over the top of that black line I already drew. Now I'm going to do it 2 times, so I get a nice thick red looping line surrounding my black line. And now our tracing does not have to be perfect. It is great if your red line gets really thick around your black line. We want a nice amount of color on there. So I'm going to do this with all of my different colored markers, picking a different color for each of my lines and just tracing them back and forth. So I am doing a couple lines back and forth, following each of the black lines that I already drew to create a thick, colorful outline. Now that I've traced each of my lines with a different one of my colors, I'm going to add some water on top of my marker lines to spread that marker out a little bit and turn it into watercolor paint on my paper. So I'm going to swirl my paintbrush in my cup of water, and I am very carefully going to paint some water right on the top of my lines. And as I'm painting, I'm just going to trace that same line that I drew. So right now with my paintbrush, I am following along with that big looping line I made with my black and my red marker, and I'm just going back and forth right on top of it. And I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera, but my marker is already turning into paint on my paper. It is spreading out and creating almost like a cloud effect around the outside of my line. So this is going to help make our rocket look like it is shooting into space with a big cloud of fiery smoke. I'm going to do this along each of my lines, taking a little bit of water and carefully rubbing that along the top of my marker. And I can even spread some water in between my lines so my colors start to mix and blend together. The only thing you want to be careful about is you don't want to make a hole in your paper. So if one area of your paper gets really, really wet, don't keep rubbing back and forth on top of it because you might get a hole. You're gonna go nice and gently. If you're not getting as much color off as you would like and not a lot of color is spreading out, you can always wait until it dries, add more marker on top, and do it again. Great, I'm going to let that dry because it is pretty wet, and I'm going to look at my planets next. So I'm going to take out all of my markers, and I'm going to decide what color I would like each of my planets. I think I'm going to start with my Earth-looking planet down here, and I'm just going to color that in carefully with my markers to make it look like Earth. So I'm going to color in those continents green, and the background blue. And I'm going to mix both of my blues together for this part. And now that I'm done coloring in that planet, I did leave some white space in there because just like with our rocket lines, I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to swirl some water on top of my planets so my colors start to blend and mix together and look a little bit more like tie-dye. And I'm going to do the same thing in my other planets. So I'm going to color in certain sections with my markers and then let my water go on top to blend it all together. All right, now that I'm finished filling in my planets and doing those lines, I'm going to put my markers away and I'm going to grab my crayons again to do the rest of the background. So you can really see my markers starting to mix and spread together. It's looking really cool on my paper. I'm just going to grab a black crayon now and I am just going to carefully shade in the background around my rocket to fill in the rest of outer space. Now I'm going to be really careful around the areas where I added water. So as I'm coloring nice and gently, I'm going to leave a little bit of space around my planets because I don't want to rip that paper if it is wet and I am pushing on it with my crayon. I'm also going to carefully go around the marker lines I drew coming out of my rocket. So I'm just going to lightly fill in my background. There we have it. Our line rocket is all finished. Once you're done with your project, you can take a photo or video of it and upload it on my Canvas page. I can't wait to see the awesome line rockets you guys have created. Try your best, have fun, and get creative, and I'll see you soon. Bye!